Good afternoon, everybody. I hope everybody's alive and ready for this presentation. I know it's tough after lunch, but I'll try to keep it as entertaining, as involved as possible. So a little bit about what we do. APM Terminals is a global leader for port container operations. We operate about 63 facilities, 64 coming online in the next couple months, of container port seaports around the world, as well as 160 inland facilities where we have depot operations or trucking operations in emerging markets in 68 countries. We're 25,000 employees globally, and we operate with about 60 steamship lines across the world. We move about 33.5 million containers annually, with that growing exponentially in the last 10 years. So if you can picture it, one of our vessels can easily contain 3,000 to 4,000 containers coming into our facility. So it's quite a remarkable trade, considering in 1975 it didn't exist. Everything was containerization, just standardized back then. So the world is moving to this platform, and we're part of that evolution, which is quite fun. And that's part of our problem. So we've seen the evolution of containerization in front of our eyes, and it keeps changing on a daily basis. The biggest challenge that we have is the space that we have to occupy, and the utilization of that space and the assets that we have to move those containers through our facilities. We do a lot of planning and design with the steamship lines to build for their future needs, but it's hard to predict the free trade agreements that governments roll out, or the emerging markets where factories might relocate. So we're having to kind of catch up the entire time. The other problem is we're faced with larger vessels operating than we did, let alone 12 years ago. The biggest ship 12 years ago in 1999 that was set to sail contained about 3,300 40-foot containers, or 6,200 TEUs, 20-foot equivalents. Today, and later this year, we will launch, there'll be a vessel launch with 18,800 TEUs. So it's nearly doubled in width and length, and even height. So it makes for an interesting challenge in our industry, because that vessel is going to call one of our facilities within the next 6 months, and will our cranes be able to handle it is the big question. So where do we face our problem? Our problem is within the execution. We've been a company in a growing industry, and we've had to acquire assets in a very timely fashion to service the customers that are coming to our facilities. And so we've had the luxury of having new assets in the fleet. And by having that in the back of our minds, we were able to skip the preventive maintenance piece and really be more reactive in nature to the overall maintenance process. We're a very operationally based portfolio, so operations first, maintenance was always second. And there was a lack of consistency of the maintenance data. We had the tools, we performed work orders within these systems, but not one installation of this software was the same across portfolio. So we definitely had the challenge of standardizing those processes within our portfolio. As I just spoke, the asset demand is ever increasing. You can see here the generations of cranes on the left-hand side in just a mere 20 years. So to take an asset like that, which takes about 2.5 years from the time we order it to the time it's delivered to our facility and erected, we're constantly behind the ball, and we're trying to catch up to the demands of the industry. And in all actuality, the maintenance process was disconnected from operations. We didn't talk. We were very reactive. If equipment was down, we measured downtime, and it was more operational downtime. It wasn't a scheduled process. So we were trying to catch up the whole time from a maintenance perspective to keep the equipment running, to keep the facilities operating at the productivity level that we needed. But we had no idea of how often that was needed and how to measure that. So I'd say about 3 years ago, we launched an initiative called CMMS, Computerized Maintenance Management System. And together we partnered with IFS. IFS had long been our provider for maintenance, procurement, and inventory systems throughout our portfolio, and we had very individualized applications running throughout our portfolio, throughout Europe and Africa, as well as the US. So we had different versions, different operating platforms throughout the whole portfolio. And so when we started this initiative, we got all our maintenance managers together from across the globe, together with IFS, and we sat in a room and looked at the design process of the maintenance operations, along with the operational managers, to come up with a plan that would not only allow us to get a more preventive or predictive maintenance process out there, but to have a standard solution across our portfolio. And as we brought new container facilities online, they would adopt these new processes as a standard piece of our operation. Something that in a multinational company such as ours was just unheard of, and we were very fragmented in our approach. So we selected IFS Maintenance because it had all of the technology available. In addition, IFS looked at future versions of their software and were able to downport those applications of future releases into our global initiative and our global platform, so that we can take advantage of the new technology that was coming out, but also keep it as standard for years to come. And that was vital in our approach. Finally, we brought in our process excellence teams to make sure that we were looking at a continuous improvement approach towards maintenance. And that was vital in establishing the KPIs and looking at better ways of performing in maintenance. So we started back in 2010 with the pilot of the CMMS program in our terminal in Belgium. And what we found is, not only through its trials and tribulations, but we found a standard way of rolling this software out. We've developed a centralized server for IFS, which is hosted, one version is hosted in Charlotte, North Carolina, the other one's in Hong Kong, and it allowed us to stream that data into 2 global servers and gather all the necessary information from all these different facilities. And it's gone a long way for us to replicate that initiative throughout all of our terminals. And in fact, we're now almost 80% complete through all of our portfolio with the IFS CMMS platform. And I believe by the end of this year, we'll be about 95% complete. We managed to consolidate the key maintenance data. Although we have many different generations of cranes across our portfolio, a crane is a crane, and they have a standard way of breaking down no matter where you are in the world. What we were able to do is to open up the communication from that data and allow other facilities to see what was happening, what potentially could happen in their facilities, so they can get ahead of the curve and make sure that they're operating at an optimal level. The final thing is we allowed ourselves to analyze the maintenance results against operations. And how we did that is we brought in our planning groups for the operation piece within our maintenance facilities. So the communication between the 2 groups allowed them to collaborate and find those windows for preventive maintenance, rather than having it during a non-scheduled downtime or during operational impacts. The big piece of that is whenever we have a ship sitting at our facility, our customer is not happy. That's where they lose their money. They're making their money while that ship's at sea. or away from our dock. And the more time it dwells on our quay, the less money that they make. And so the demand for us to operate the most efficient way to get that vessel in and out of our port is more money in their pockets. So the result, it's staggering. We don't have concrete information, but number one, we took 12 instances of IFS out of the portfolio and reduced it to 2. On top of that, we are able to implement IFS in another 25 facilities during that same time. So we expanded IFS to the reach of our entire portfolio in about 3.5 years, who wouldn't have had a system to call on 3 years prior. That was enormous way forward. It's part of our culture now to use the IFS maintenance as part of our main back office operations. We improved the confidence in the data source. By having a standardized process throughout the portfolio, maintenance managers can pick up the phone and they don't have to talk through a process within the system. They can talk about the results of the process, the reports that come out of the system, the KPIs that get measured on, and the findings from those repairs that now are standardized across the portfolio. That is enormous to a maintenance manager who usually has very little time to react to unexpected downtime or has to plan a scheduled downtime during a very short window. We are in the process of moving from reactive to a predictive or preventative maintenance process. It's a mindset change for an organization. This doesn't happen overnight. And as we described, it's a 4-year project and we're 3 years into it. It took 1.5 years to design the process and the planning piece in order to execute the rest of the software. And together with IFS, we were able to collaborate and come together and get that information in front of everybody at once to help design that process. So the change in mindset is evolving. We're moving in the right direction. We now have the data to support the initiative going forward, and we'll see more benefits not only from server consolidation or process consolidation, but also in the predictability of our assets, our utilization within our facilities, allowing us to capture more customers, to move more containers through our existing footprint rather than expanding, because expanding takes years in our industry, and unfortunately we are not necessarily having that kind of time to react to a new customer's demands. The numbers are early at this point, but we have seen a reduction in maintenance spend, especially here in North America over the last 2 years. We've been live about 1.5 years, and through this predictive maintenance process, we're able to reduce the windows that it takes to perform the PMs on these pieces of equipment, but also extend those periods into more scheduled downtime versus a reactive, which reduces our labor to have it on odd shifts versus when a ship is working. So it allows us to be more agile, allows us to be more predictive, more proactive in our approach towards maintenance. And the big thing is our communication has increased tremendously between operations and maintenance. Maintenance used to be that piece of operations that slowed the process down. And now, between the collaboration of the two groups, they see the synergies between the two groups and allows them to work together and collaborate and communicate on a more often basis to find a better way to maintain our equipment, to better operate our facilities. And if you told me 3 years ago that we would be able to do this in such a short period of time, I would have denied it as well. It's just it's a big movement, it's a big change, it's a mindset change, but we have now the tools to move us forward. We have a standard platform to move our industry forward and to be a leader within the community.